I'm concerned that we're starting to organize too late, honestly. Because I do feel that, take this how you want to take it, but I do feel like there's resistance growing. But I got a funny feeling about the end of this year. I really do. Everything that I see, anybody who watches this stuff, who really watches it, doesn't watch Fox News or MSNBC or CNN to get their news, because you're not going to be informed.
That doesn't count.
You're not going to be informed. I'm sorry. But anybody who really watches the legislation, the executive orders that are being passed, the fact that Congress is not doing their job, and the reason they're not doing it, they're doing it deliberately because they're giving all the power to the executive branch.
Wait. Isn't that their job?
What's that? To not do anything?
To provide an excuse to screw over the American people on behalf of the superclass?
They're doing a really good job.
Yeah, they're the front men, right?
They've given a great job. All authority to one person. They're doing great.
But you guys got out of the Marines just a year ago, and you're saying that the Marine Corps is a catalyst for change. Like, well, how is it waking people up now in ways that it hasn't before?
I think it's just the constant knowing that something wasn't quite right. Like over the last 10 years, like if it was a quick one and done deal, you keep the whole, oh yeah, we're doing the right thing.
The propaganda works long enough.
But over long term, people start questioning, like, why am I fighting these farmers? Like, why am I, like, these guys are just like us. They're literally trying to provide for their families. And why am I, like, I don't get it.
We have flamethrowers over there, right? And I told my first sergeant, it came up, we might be burning crop down. I told my first sergeant, I said, there's no way that I'm going to burn another man's crop down. There's absolutely no way. I don't care what it is. Because it's wrong. It's completely unethical.
But it's poppy. It's making heroin. It's going to get people high and ruin their lives.
Oh yeah, that's why the opium production's increased 90% since we've been there. The war on drugs. Let's not talk about that.
Okay, so if the current situation in the military is waking people up because the propaganda is so obscene and so thin and hard to believe, why do the wars continue? Why do people keep following orders? Why do people keep getting on airplanes and flying to the other side of the world to impose martial law in these countries?
The military-industrial complex. I mean, Dwight D. Eisenhower warned us about the military-industrial complex 60 years ago. He said, your country, your legislative branch, your economy will get addicted to going to war. And then it'll find ways to go to war and stay in war because of that. And we go to public school. People who go to public school don't know what the true history of the world is. So how are they supposed to know anything? They're literally taught by people that went to public school, who were taught by people that went to public school, who were taught by people that went to public school. So it's literally been 100 years of indoctrination. Nobody knows the true history of the world. Like, the true history is the one that you follow through money. If you want to understand what is really going on, you follow the money. And you can't follow the money based off of the history that we're given in American public school. You can't. Because they've dumbed it down and they've extracted the parts they wanted to, and they focus on the parts that they want to.
Okay, so you guys both got out of the Marines about a year ago, so you've still got friends who are in. You're still thinking about guys who are probably overseas right now. What would you tell them? What's your message to guys that are still in, with the perspective now that you've gotten out and you've had the opportunity to indulge all of your doubts and to do the research?
Educate yourself, but I'm very careful about addressing that kind of stuff with guys that are still in and guys that are still over there, because I don't want to discredit anything that they feel they're doing, or
why not
make it disheartening, because I want them to come back home alive first, then we can talk about it. You know what I mean? But going back to the
what if you had someone in a situation like, say, they were a guard at Abu Ghraib, and they were being told to soften up prisoners. You'd rather than do the research and wake up and stop doing it while they're there. You'd rather they just buckle down and come home.
Just take orders.
Keep doing their job. Because then what you're saying is, for the time being, just follow orders.
No,
Stuff
that's
like
not.
that stuff like that's morally wrong, and
Yeah,
that's on
yeah.
them as a man. Because bottom line, like I have not followed plenty of orders, you know, and
They teach you how to do that in the Marines, right?
well, yeah, like if you can figure out a way to make it happen and get it done correctly before they have time to realize you did a different way, then it doesn't really matter a lot of times. But it's always on yourself as an individual. I've always thought it was a cop-out to say, you know, I was giving orders to this bullshit. You're a man first, you're a Marine second.
Well, how is it that it's wrong to torture a prisoner at Abu Ghraib to soften them up for detention, but it's okay to be in the supply chain and hooking those people up with their food and their ammunition and everything else and their logistical support? How is it any different, morally speaking, if you're not the one actually there, you know, cracking the whip, but you're a part of that, you're supporting it, you're followed your unlawful orders to get on the plane in the first place?
Well, unfortunately, it's really not that much different. I mean, that's the problem. You know.
So you're giving pragmatic advice, not moral advice.
Well, I mean, you're asking me a tough question.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a really tough question.
Yeah, I don't know how to answer that.
You know.
Well, I think the guys who are still in deserve to have people like us who are trying to get them a message,
Absolutely.
think these things through and really go to the bottom of the rabbit hole and say, if this is the motivation that it's morally wrong to be involved in this way, what is our premise of morals? What is our standard of ethics? And then what is the implication for someone who's just following orders?
Yeah, I mean, that's a tough situation. I'm not really sure as far as like what you're physically doing when you're over there, especially since Iraq's pretty much over with. I'm not sure what's going on in Iraq. I can't really speak on that. But Afghanistan, in my experience,
mercenaries there now.
you know, you are going to fight the occasional bad guy, but you're also going to fight the occasional farmer.
What's a bad guy?
Well,
What's the
I got
difference
it.
between a bad guy and a farmer in
That's a good
Afghanistan?
question.
well, you're right.
Well, here's basically the bad guys.
There are, well, I'll say there's the occasional guy that you're going to fight that is evil in their heart, and there's a guy that you're going to fight that is.
So if you can judge, how do you tell the difference between someone who's fighting just to get you out of his country and someone who's fighting because he's evil?
Well, it's difficult to, like, in that moment to decide because you can't. But like I'm saying, there is differences. Like,
But that's why you would want to avoid being in that situation in the first place, right? Like
absolutely.
being imposing martial law on a country on the other side of the
bottom line
planet.
is we shouldn't be there because while we're there in the first place, like the Taliban, they quote unquote claim that the Taliban attacked us.
No, we went there for Al Qaeda. Then it turned. I don't even know how this got sold to the American people. Then turned into
They're
we
all
got to
Saudi
overthrow the
Arabians.
Taliban.
Yeah, like
Who we created. We created the Taliban. But that's a really tough question. But at the end of the day, you know, you got to make sure your brother to the right and to the left of you gets home. So if you're fired upon, you got to protect them first.
Well, if your only concern was getting home, wouldn't the safest thing to do be to simply refuse all orders and say, I am hereby not participating in this war? I
Well,
want to go home.
see, for me, it was never about myself getting home. For me, it was about getting as many men home as possible. So,
Well, if you weren't there to lead them into combat, perhaps they would have joined you, and if you were to lead them out of combat.
I mean, that sounds good, but in the way that the Marine Corps works,
Now you sound like government making excuses.
no, what I'm saying is that if I say, hey, I'm not fighting, you know, all of a sudden I go away in handcuffs, and then the people that I'm trying to,
You get home alive.
I don't care about that. I never cared about coming home alive. I mean, the only reason I fought was for my friends. So, a lot of them are home safe now.
But to everybody still serving, you say, I guess we can agree, the very first thing is to educate yourself, right? To when you have those questions, if you're overseas with the military and you go, wait a second, something isn't right here, You better get squared away with that shit. You better know what you're talking about, right?
Absolutely. I think the most important thing is we need people to care again, and we need people to get involved at the local and state levels of government. We really need the most well-informed individuals to take over government roles. We need to infiltrate the government. We need to kick these aristocratic bastards out of office.
So tell me again your name, when you served, and why you're here outside the John Randolph Medical Center.
Okay, my name is Greg Price. I served between 2005 and 2011. I'm out here today in support of Brandon J. Robb, who is being held illegally, unconstitutionally, against his will, for simply Facebook posts exposing what he believes is the truth, never making a threat to anybody.
My name is Jesse C. Cash. I served with both these guys from 2005 to 2011 as well, and I'm here supporting Brandon J. Robb. I've known him for nearly 8 years now, and they're claiming that he is clinically insane. That's the reason why they detained him. He's easily the most logical, clear-headed, minded person I've ever met in my life. And I'm here to basically support him and speak out against the institution that's trying to say that he is not fit for society.
Is there an implication for this, for the guys that are still in? Like, hey, if you just go along to get along, if you just keep serving the system, this is the system that's going to welcome you home.
Yeah, that's part of it. I mean, it's extreme irony that you go over to fight quote-unquote terrorists, you know, for freedom, and then you come back and you speak about freedom, and then you become a quote-unquote terrorist.
And then you realize
it's almost laughable.
I think the question you have to ask yourself right now, if you're in the armed services, and personally I believe that the Marine Corps is by far the best organization when it comes to defending freedom, because nobody joins the Marines for a free ride. But the question you have to ask yourself is, when you took your oath to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign or domestic, what you're doing right now, you need to ask yourself, are you being a police officer for globalism and for one global government, or are you defending American freedom and our land here in America? And the choice is pretty clear. It's obvious. We're police officers. We are global police officers right now for globalism. We're throwing out every leader around the world who they know will not conform to what they want them to do. And then, secondly, you need to look into the petrodollar, and it will explain a lot about why our foreign policy is what it is and why they're beating the war drum on Iran right now. That's what you need to ask yourself. Those are some starting points. You know, the rest is yours. It should lead you to a lot of other interesting things.
And then start watching Adam versus the Man and share my videos
Absolutely.
With everybody on active duty, right?
Absolutely. Share on Facebook, Twitter, you know, all those other networks.
And take this as an opportunity as well, that these issues are hitting home, like with Brandon here and with you as veterans, to make that connection for the guys who are on active duty and law enforcement as well, and reaching out with the message of Oath Keepers about following their oath to the Constitution over illegal orders.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not unpatriotic to question why we go to war. It's actually very patriotic. You know, if you take, for instance, the start of our nation and our leaders, Thomas Jefferson believed in isolationism, which is we are free.
We isolate our government from the rest of the world.
Exactly. We isolate our government from the rest of the world. Not that we don't involve ourselves in free trade or commerce with the rest of the world, but we aren't imposing our will on others, which is what we're doing now. Like, literally, we're in thousands and thousands of countries now. Why? Like,
and we also don't show favoritism to one nation or another. We treat everybody equally, unlike what we're doing right now, which, you know, for some reason, people just don't get it. They're like, well, why are we, you know, well, they listen to the mainstream media. You know, Israel can take care of themselves, okay, first and foremost. We do not need to go to war with Iran. We have 45 bases surrounding their country, and yet they're talking about how threatened we should feel. I'm pretty confused at the logic. The ability to think logically and rationally about these types of things is completely gone. I don't know what's going on in American society unless we're being dumbed down, which I believe we are. But, you know, it's crazy. I mean, this stuff is so clear cut to me, but people just don't seem to see it or get it. You know, you need to study your history. And I'm not talking about textbook history. I'm talking about legitimately going out and researching things and finding out answers. Because one thing will lead to another. And then you'll start realizing that these really important families who have held high offices are still holding high offices today. And then you'll also realize that the most important people, the most powerful people are the ones that are behind the scenes that don't get in front of the camera. They're the ones running the world and running the country right now. And we need to get rid of these guys. We need to end this.
All right, so guys, I really appreciate it. That was really brilliant. We got a little more formal, but that was a lot of fun. But seriously, then on a separate sort of set of questions, what are you taking it upon yourselves then to reach out to guys on active duty? Like, what are you calling guys in your unit, or are you just trying to stay connected online with them? I mean, obviously, in theater, most guys are able to, like, you know, at least keep up with Facebook and email if they want, right? Everybody's able to.
Yeah, we actually get together a lot. A lot of our friends, guys that we really respect, and that are bold men, leaders. And we talk to them about what's going on.
People who are active duty, you mean?
Yes.
So you're talking about hanging out with them here, like locally or online?
Wherever, you know, if we're in that city, you know, we always usually we have connections. Like, hey, where you at, man? Let's get together. We sit down and we talk about some of this stuff. We've talked to some of our first sergeants. Like, hey, do you know what's going on in our country? You know, and I've had those conversations time and time again, and it's always in an informal manner, either in person or over the phone. We talk about this stuff.
So what's okay? So that's great. So you're able to get it in that way. What do you think is the impact of that? Then are these guys
They're waking up.
They get out? Like, do they don't re-enlist as a result, or they get out and become activists, or what?
Here's the unfortunate set of circumstances that we deal with when it comes to the military. Active duty life is so easy. It is so easy. You can't get fired. You can't, you know, you could screw up and
still get a paycheck, 3 hots and a cot.
Now, you know, there are field Marines out there that are out training and busting their butt, as well as other troops.
But they don't have to think too hard. They don't have to plan careers. They don't have to have responsibility and make decisions.
Exactly. Plus,
except within this very narrow, specific lane.
The
right?
economic conditions have a lot to do with getting out of the military too.
It's tough, yeah. You have to walk away from that paycheck.
If we didn't have 900 bases around the world and we weren't fighting several wars right now, our economic conditions at home would be even worse. Our unemployment rate would be even higher. That's what happens when economic times get tough. Every time in American history we have wars, and it improves the economic conditions at home for a little while.
Sure, in an illusionary way.
In an illusionary
totally
way.
illusionary way.
Very illusionary way.
Yeah.
Because people don't understand things like inflation. I cannot believe how many people do not understand that our money is phony.
Well, it's like when you're a kid and you go, Mom, why do comic books cost $3 when they used to cost a nickel? And like, it's just inflation. Just accept it. And it's like you're told to bury your doubts and you're conditioned to go back into your bubble and never question it.
Well, it's just because we're misinformed.
But I want to talk about military outreach with you guys. Like, seriously, what is the effect of guys on active duty starting to wake up? Are they at least like telling their little brothers not to enlist? Are they getting out when their terms are up and not re-enlisting? Are they going to be in a position as oath keepers to say, wait a second, there's no declaration of war against Iran or Syria. We're not going to follow these deployment orders.
With organization, yes. If they can organize and they can do it as a group, if they can do it unified, then they can do it.
So you think guys on the inside have to, like, it has to,
Yes,
at some point there has to be an impetus of organization from the inside.
Absolutely, and it needs to start now. But you know, that's probably all I should say about that, honestly.
No, come on, you're out now.
No. That's all I should touch on that part. But I do recommend to everybody not to re-enlist and not to enlist right now. But
Take your body out of the machine.
that's because of what I feel is coming economically, and I think it's going to be a little chaotic.
So, but if that's the message, if that's what you're hoping comes out of this, that people take their bodies out of the machine, right? Then why not organize and push that? Why not, as veterans, organize like counter recruiting efforts? Why not be there's still that guy that you served with right now, working as a recruiter's assistant somewhere, who's going like, fuck, if I don't get another 2 bodies into the machine next week, I'm getting cut. Like my career is getting fucked with. You guys know the recruiting game, right? Why not tackle that? Why not get on that and organize there?
Well, I'm not sure quite how I feel about that. I haven't thought it out, so I'm not sure how I want to talk about that.
You got to get to the bottom of the rabbit hole first about security and militarism, right?
Yeah, that's a really tough question, because at the end of the day, we do need
Like there's
the willing
yeah.
to step up and to enlist and
Are
to
you
be
sure?
willing to defend. But at
Are
the
you
same
sure?
t- at
Are you
the
sure about that?
Well, if you take your oath seriously, that you will defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign or domestic, then yes, we do need those guys.
You don't think this country would be better off if we just dissolved the federal government entirely and went back to 50 separate states
I couldn't agree with you.
and dissolved the entire U.S. military and instead just had militias and state guards?
What I believe in, as far as the military goes, is I believe in a very small, like about a 30,000 man quick reactionary force that is unbelievably violent and extremely well trained. But we don't need a 3 million man army. Literally, Alexander the Great conquered the world with 50,000 men.
There were less people around altogether back then, though.
Yeah. But that being said, when we're in combat, it should be, when we have to fight a war, it should be quick, fast, and open.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely. It's going to be ugly.
I don't believe having a, maybe even less, maybe 25,000. Having a 25,000 man army, I don't believe in a nation of 330 million people that is as big of a threat to the public. If you have 150 million guns in the...
Well, you guys believe in the free market, right?
I believe in it, yeah.
So,
Which does not exist.
right. Well, wouldn't you want the market to be the force that evaluates what is the threat and what force should be, instead of you just saying, 25,000 troops.
Well,
Maybe it's more than that. Maybe it's less.
It could be at that particular time. What I'm saying is,
But if you have the market determine it, then it's able to respond, as you know, like all things compared to government, much more efficiently, much more rapidly. It's able to get out and say like, well, this is, the motivation for efficiency means that anything that's extraneous goes away.
yeah,
Like
exactly.
as soon as we can figure out that it's extraneous. Wouldn't you rather see the market determining our defense rather than government?
I agree, but for me, 25,000 is literally one.
But see, now you're being a central planner. You're being a central planner. You're saying, well, I have an idea, therefore we should
but
just.
isn't it the sole role of the federal government to defend our borders?
No. Well,
What is it? What is a border?
Is there anything going on?
Have you seen my video about that? You know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but
You'll get there.
my opinion on
See, you're kind of playing devil's advocate right now.
Well, no, I'm
but
playing
you're trying to have a
Socrates.
discussion.
I mean, I'm having fun because I kind of want to. I really do want to, brainstorm about, and to me, it's cool to have an opportunity to talk to two guys who. I mean, I got out in end of 2006, so I'm kind of like, I'm salty as a civilian. I've been like. In the army of the Lovolution, I'm salty compared to you guys, and I don't mean to say that because we don't claim leadership or any kind of authority, unlike in the military. But to me, it's exciting to be able to talk to guys that are going through what I went through in a much slower process over the last 6 years. And you guys are going through it way faster. It's almost embarrassing how long it took me to get to this point of awareness for myself because.
Well, it started with us probably 3 years before we got out.
Yeah. So you guys have been on the intellectual path
There was
for,
no amount
for
of
4
money
years
that they could have
now.
offered me
Yeah.
to re-enlist. As much as I love it, like I love the camaraderie, there was no amount of money that they could have offered me to re-enlist.
But I'm also trying to like show you guys,
Well,
you know,
hey,
the way of thinking too. That
well, this is like the, you know, people scream about democracy, but we're not founded on democratic principles. We were founded on Republican principles. You cannot have freedom in a democracy. You can only have freedom in a republic. Democracy is mob rule. It's the 51% imposing their will on the 49. I don't know where this got lost in translation. Obviously, from our public education system, because it got infiltrated by the Fabian society decades ago. But all they talk about is democracy, democracy, democracy. But we were founded as a republic. We're founded as a republic. I mean, what's going on here?
Literally, we shouldn't have a constitution. It should just be an extended Bill of Rights. That should be it.
you only need the Bill of Rights because you have a constitution that gives birth to the power in the first place.
Yeah.
But let me ask you, have you seen my video, Patriotism is for Bitches?
No, I haven't seen that one. I haven't seen that
You
one.
haven't?
No, I haven't.
And then they call these arbitrary lines drawn on maps borders. Patriotism is a form of collectivism.